This happened 8 years ago. I was in my mid-30s, visiting Madrid for a cultural symposium. The city was buzzing with life, laughter, street vendors shouting about their tapas, and colors everywhere. I had chosen a small hotel near Plaza Mayor, surrounded by history. I was excited and filled with ideas for my next art project, but nothing prepared me for what came next. One afternoon, I found a cozy cafe. The sun was warm on my skin as I sat at a small table, sipping my coffee. I overheard a couple at the next table. Their voices were low, but I caught some phrases about a bullfight that turned chaotic years ago. Intrigued, I leaned in, eager to learn more. When I asked them about it, they exchanged worried looks. It sent chills down my spine. They suddenly changed the subject, leaving me puzzled. As I walked through the narrow streets later, I couldn't shake that encounter. The sun hung low, casting long shadows. My mind raced with questions. I decided to dig deeper. That night I found old photographs of the fight. The pictures were grainy, but I felt drawn to them. Days passed and rumors began to swirl. People whispered about shadows they saw during the bullfight, strange noises that echoed in the arena. I couldn't shake the feeling that a dark story was lurking beneath the surface. Each moment I spent in the city felt heavy, like something was watching me. Sometimes I thought I caught sight of a figure lurking in the corners. One night, as I walked back to my hotel, I rounded a corner and thought I saw someone standing in an alley. My heart raced. I told myself it was just a trick of the light, that I was being silly, but doubt crept in. I worried I was losing my grip on reality. I went to more cafes, asking around. People were hesitant to talk. I noticed they grew fearful when I mentioned the bullfight. Their voices lowered, and they quickly looked away. The more I pressed, the more they stiffened. I felt like I was prowling into taboo territory. Then one afternoon on a park bench, I heard a conversation nearby. Someone spoke about a death that should have never happened. Chills crawled up my spine. I turned to ask who it was, but the person looked at me wide-eyed and walked away. As the sun set, uncertainty gnawed at me. What really happened that day in the bullring? Each answer seemed to lead to more questions. I didn't know if I would ever understand what I'd witnessed. Then I felt it. A whisper brushed against my ear. I froze and turned around. There was nobody there. The streets were quiet. It shook me to my core. I left that city with questions lingering in my mind, never discovering the truth behind the bullfight. But the whispers followed me home, and I still hear them sometimes echoing in the dark. I returned home, but Madrid lingered in my thoughts like a shadow. The city felt distant, yet its whispers haunted me. I couldn't shake the weight of the secrets I hadn't uncovered. My studio, once a haven for creativity, became a prison filled with unanswered questions. I tried to paint, but every stroke brought me back to the darkness I sensed in Spain. Weeks passed, and the frenzy of daily life was a poor distraction. The anxiety grew. I had to know more. One night, compelled by an inexplicable urge, I sat at my desk, surrounded by my sketches and photographs from that trip. The grainy images of the bullfight called to me. I scrutinized every detail, searching for clues. That's when I noticed something strange. In one photograph, the crowd's expressions varied wildly, some elation, others horror. But in the back, almost camouflaged, was a figure wearing a dark cloak. Its face was obscured, but a shiver shot through me. I hadn't seen this before. Who was that person? And why did it feel like it was watching the bullfight too? I needed answers. I dove into the internet, digging up anything related to that fateful day. The more I read, the more unsettling the tale became. Articles were filled with accounts of the incident, each reporting different versions of the same tragedy. Some claimed it was merely an accident. Others suggested foul play. Discrepancies ran like veins through every story I discovered. In one late-night forum thread, a user posted about the bullfight, sharing eerie details about a curse that hung over the arena. They described shrouded figures appearing before devastating events. My heart raced as I read. Was this connected to what I had heard in Madrid? The whispers suddenly took on a new meaning. I reached out to a local historian in Madrid, hoping they could shed light on the events. We arranged a video call. With my questions ready, I waited, my heart pounding. When the call connected, a weary-looking man appeared, his face illuminated by the dim light in his office. "Hello," he said, rubbing his temple. "I received your message about wanting to know more about the bullfight." I barely introduced myself before launching into my questions. The historian listened quietly, his expression shifting as I recounted my experiences, the fearful whispers, the figure in the photograph. "People don't talk about it for a reason," he warned, his voice becoming grave. "There's more to that fight than anyone dares admit." I pressed him for details, but his hesitation only made me more anxious. There was a deep-seated fear in his eyes. Then, without warning, he leaned toward the camera, whispering urgently, "You're not the first to be drawn in. They never leave you alone." Then everything went dark. The screen froze and I lost the connection. I sat there, breathless. What had I stumbled into? Something far more dangerous than I anticipated. Just then my phone buzzed. I looked at the screen and gasped. A message from an unknown number read, "Stop asking questions." I glanced around my dark studio, feeling the chill creep back in. I wasn't sure how deep I had gone, but it was clear I had crossed a line. And whatever lingered in Madrid was following me. The next morning, I felt like I hadn't slept at all. Shadows clung to the corners of my studio, and the air felt thick. I tried to shake off my unease with coffee, but the taste turned bitter on my tongue. The message hung over me like a storm cloud. Stop asking questions. Who sent it? What were they afraid I would find? I needed to regain some control. I grabbed my camera and headed out, determined to seek answers on my own terms. I found myself wandering the streets of my neighborhood. The sun was bright, yet I felt only darkness creeping in. I passed familiar spots, the cafe where I wrote and the park where I sketched, but none offered solace today. I decided to visit the library, hoping books would provide clarity. The dusty shelves were a comfort, though I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. I immersed myself in research, digging into any material related to bullfighting and the incidents surrounding the arena. With each page, I felt the strange pull of the past wrapping around me again. Suddenly, an article caught my eye. It was an old newspaper clipping about a bullfight that took place 8 years ago, featuring the same arena. The article described a tragic accident, a matador who had failed to make a critical maneuver, resulting in disaster. It detailed how the crowd gasped in horror, their collective shock palpable. But what seized my attention was a mention of figures seen lurking near the entrance just before the incident, dressed in dark cloaks. I felt a chill run down my spine. Could this be the same phenomenon the historian spoke of? I quickly snapped a photo of the article and scribbled down the headline. This was more than a coincidence. This was history repeating itself. As I left the library, the unease settled back in. My phone buzzed again, this time a different unknown number. "You're getting too close. Just forget it," the message read. My stomach sank. Whoever had sent the first warning had clearly followed my movements. I rushed home, heart racing. I wasn't just caught up in a story, I was being hunted. As I entered my studio, the door creaked behind me. I froze. Someone could be here. I quickly glanced around, half expecting to see a cloaked figure emerging from the shadows. Nothing moved, just silence. I locked the door and tried to catch my breath. I needed to find out the truth. The photograph was becoming a point of obsession, and now it felt like a thread pulling me closer to danger. I needed to identify that figure watching from the crowd. Then I remembered the historian's words. There were others, people who had tried to uncover the truth. I needed to follow that trail. I dug out my notes from our call, scanning them for any lead. Any name or piece of information that could point me towards someone willing to speak. That's when I saw it, a name I hadn't noticed before, written faintly in the corner. Elena Trujillo, a former matador. I didn't know who she was, but something told me she might hold the key to everything. I picked up my phone, hovering over the search button. A new calamity waited just beyond the screen. What had I gotten myself into? I didn't waste a second. I typed in Elena Trujillo's name and hit search. A wave of articles appeared, detailing her rise in the bullfighting world and her abrupt retirement after the tragic accident. One headline caught my eye. Elena Trujillo, the matador haunted by the past. It seemed she hadn't just left the arena, she had vanished entirely. I tried to find contact information, but everything led to dead ends. It was as if she had been erased from the world. The longer I searched, the more frustrated I became. Each click felt like a step deeper into a conspiracy. I was desperate. Maybe she was hiding, running from something connected to the past. Just when I began to lose hope, I found a community forum discussing former matadors. One thread mentioned sightings of Elena, suggesting that she occasionally returned to the old arena on the anniversary of that disastrous fight. It couldn't be a coincidence. I scribbled down the forum link, my heart racing at the thought of confronting her. I had to go there. Finding her could open the door to answering my questions. As the daylight faded, I gathered my camera and headed out. The atmosphere felt heavy as I made my way to the arena, shadows stretching along the stone walls. My instincts hummed with unease, but I pushed it down. I wanted answers. As I approached, I noted the eerie silence of the night, broken only by the whisper of the wind. I could almost hear the echoes of the past, a chaotic crowd, the roar of the bulls. The deeper I walked into the plaza, the more I felt the presence of something unseen, watching. I set up my camera, planning to catch any signs of her. There was still time before the anniversary, but I had a strange urge to be there early. I waited and adjusted my lens, scanning for any movement. My mind raced, wondering if I was wasting my time. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a figure. Someone in a dark cloak lingering near the entrance. My heart jumped. Was it her? I couldn't tell. I felt a sudden rush of fear, my instincts screaming at me to get out. But I couldn't let my fear dictate my actions. I focused my camera, preparing to capture the moment. Just as I pressed the shutter, the figure turned sharply and our eyes met for a split second before they vanished into the shadows. A wave of sweat cascaded down my back. I fumbled with my camera, reviewing the photo I had just taken. My breath caught in my throat. There was no denying it. I had captured something truly bizarre. A glimpse of their face, hidden beneath the cloak, yet undeniably familiar. Then my phone buzzed again. "Leave now," the message warned. Panic surged through me. Could this person somehow be connected to the warning? I looked around the empty arena, my decision suddenly clear. I had to confront whoever this was, but was I prepared for the truth that lurked there? I stepped forward, a mix of determination and dread flooding my veins. What was I about to uncover? I moved closer to where I'd seen the figure. Shadows clung to the edges of the arena like ghosts. The silence felt heavy, each step reverberating in my ears. I didn't know what or who I was looking for, but my curiosity pushed me onward. Maybe I could piece together what happened that fateful day, and maybe it was all tied to Elena. "Hello!" I called, my voice trembling. No response, just the wind whipping through the empty space. I glanced behind me, half expecting to see someone emerge from the shadows, but it was still and quiet. Just as I took another step, I felt something brush against my ankle. I gasped, spinning around. It was just a stray piece of cloth stuck in the grass, likely from a cleaner who had left it behind. My heart was racing, and I forced myself to calm down. Then I saw it. A faint flicker of movement near the far end of the arena. I squinted, trying to make sense of it. My mind raced with possibilities. Was it Eleanor or someone else? I crept towards the movement, keeping low to the ground. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was intruding on something secretive. The sudden uncertainty weighed like a stone in my stomach. As I got closer, I heard a muffled voice, barely discernible. "Leave this place, for your sake," the voice urged. It wasn't Elena's, but it felt familiar. I paused, the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. Who was warning me? I pressed on, my breath shallow and quick, until I reached the ruined wall. I peered around the corner, holding my camera ready. And there she was, Elena Trujillo, standing by herself, her cloak billowing lightly in the breeze. She looked just as she had in the photos, haunted, eluded by the past. "Eleanor?" I called out, my voice quivering slightly. She turned slowly, her eyes narrowing as they landed on me. "What do you want?" Her voice was piercing, sharp as a bull's horn. "I need to know what happened that day," I blurted out, stepping closer. "The fight. I want to understand why you disappeared." Her expression shifted. An unreadable mix of fear and anger washed over her face. "You shouldn't be here. You don't know what you're getting involved in." "What do you mean?" I pressed, ignoring the warning in her tone. I saw. "Enough!" she shouted, cutting me off. "You need to leave." Before I could respond, the atmosphere thickened around us, and I realized how vulnerable I truly was standing there. I could almost feel the weight of her past pressing down on us both. Would she ever tell me the truth? In that moment, something shifted in the shadows at the edge of my vision. My heart dropped as I turned, dread filling me. There, emerging from the darkness, was another figure. Whoever it was, they moved with purpose, their intentions hidden beneath a heavy coat. "Elena," I shouted, moving instinctively to protect her. "Run!" But before I could reach her, a pair of dark eyes locked onto me. I froze. That was when everything went dark. I came to on the ground, my head throbbed. I blinked, struggling to make sense of what happened. Light spilled through broken sections of the arena's wall, casting long shadows. I pushed myself up, wincing from the pain pulsing in my skull. Where was Elena? The fear coursed through me as I scrambled to my feet, searching the arena. The figure was gone, vanished into the night, and with it, any hope of answers. I called out her name, but my voice sounded weak, swallowed by the emptiness surrounding me. Rubbing my temples, I looked around. My camera was still clutched in my hand. A quick scan confirmed it wasn't damaged. I felt a flicker of relief until I remembered the darkness closing in just before I lost consciousness. A shiver washed over me. I was not alone here. I stepped cautiously toward the spot where I last saw Elena. The air felt different, thick with tension, as if it were alive. Each crunch of gravel beneath my feet echoed like a warning. I couldn't shake the sense that someone was watching me. I turned abruptly, half expecting to see the dark-eyed figure closing in once more, but nothing stirred. Then, caught in the corner of my eye, something flickered again near the ruined wall. This time, it was a small piece of fabric, the same kind I had found earlier. I knelt down, my heart racing as I identified the familiar pattern, the same fabric from Elena's cloak. What was it doing here? It felt like a breadcrumb leading me deeper into the mystery. I picked it up gingerly, the fabric cool against my fingers. As I examined it closely, a movement caught my attention from the far side of the arena. A door, draped in shadow, stood ajar. Instinctively, I approached it, the fabric still in my grasp. Pushing the door open just enough to slip through, the inside was dark, musty air enveloping me. As my eyes adjusted, I saw what looked like a room filled with old equipment, the relics of a past I had yet to uncover. Just then, a scuffling noise erupted from behind. I whipped around, my pulse quickening. I wasn't alone. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice shaky and uncertain. Silence followed. I stepped back, maintaining my grip on the fabric, heart racing wildly. Then a voice broke the stillness, low and menacing. "You shouldn't have come here." I knew that voice. It was the same one that had warned me earlier. "Leave this place, for your sake." My instinct screamed at me to run, but I needed to know. Why this warning? Why me? I took a step forward, trying to sound braver than I felt. "What do you know about Elena? What happened to her?" Before I could brace myself, the figure stepped into the faint light, their face obscured but their intent clear. The heavy coat billowed slightly, creating an ominous presence. "You're asking questions that are better left unanswered." That's when I realized the room was filling with voices. Whispers intertwined with the dark, swirling around like a storm. I could barely think, panic clawing at my throat. "Get out!" I shouted, the words barely escaping my lips before a hand shot out, grabbing my wrist with an iron grip. And that's when everything went dark again. I gasped as light rushed back into focus, bright and harsh. It blinded me momentarily, and I squinted, trying to adjust. My surroundings came into view. Walls lined with cold, damp stone, and the faint flicker of a single light bulb swinging overhead. The shadows seemed to dance around me, mocking my confusion. I was alone again. No figure, no whispers, only the lingering echo of fear. I was still in that strange room, but somehow repositioned. I looked down at my wrist. An angry red mark was forming where I had been gripped. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. What had happened? My mind raced, recalling the figure's warnings, the rush of darkness. It was as if I had crossed a threshold I couldn't see, a barrier between the known and the unknown. I had to escape. But first, I needed to find Elena. Pushing myself up, I scanned the room. Rusty equipment lay scattered across a long table. It looked like junk. Old cameras, broken lights, and dusty reels. My fingers itched to explore, to find anything that might help piece together what was going on. I stepped forward, my foot landing on something plastic. I looked down and saw a small film canister rolling away. I bent down to stop it, heart pounding as I welded the flashing light from my camera to it. Quickly, I opened the lid. Inside, a film reel sat, untouched and seemingly ordinary. I hesitated. What if it held answers? I could play it back, see what was on it. But there was no projector in sight. A surge of frustration swept over me. I had to keep moving. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from outside the room. I jumped, nerves fraying. I felt the pull of fear rooting me in place, but the thought of Elena pushed me forward. I had to know she was safe. I moved towards the door, my heart racing again, every instinct screaming at me to look back. I stopped briefly to pick up the fabric from my last encounter. I shoved it into my pocket, hoping it would lead to something. It felt like I was collecting pieces of a broken puzzle, each one a fragment of an answer waiting to be uncovered. As I stepped outside into the dimly lit corridor, I could make out the distant sounds of shouting and running feet. They were coming from the far end. I moved quietly, conscious of every creak in the floorboards beneath me. Then I heard something that sent a chill up my spine. Elena's name, called out in desperation from within the chaos. It was unmistakable. I rushed towards the sound, my breath hitching. I had to be quick. What if they were taking her away? The thought propelled me forward until I reached a larger doorway. Clear voices now echoed through. "I don't want any trouble," a voice pleaded. It was her. That's when I saw a silhouette standing just outside with a knife glinting dangerously in their hand. My blood ran cold. I had to act, and fast. I moved silently to the edge of the doorway, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm in my chest. The silhouette shifted, and I could finally make out a face. It was a man, his expression cold and fierce. He pointed the knife at Elena, who was backed up against the wall. Fear swirled in her eyes as she shook her head. "Just let her go," I shouted, instantly regretting my reckless outburst. The man turned sharply, his eyes narrowing as they landed on me. "Who the hell are you?" he barked, and a rush of adrenaline surged through my body. I didn't know what to say. My mind scrambled for a response, but I knew I had to buy Elena time. "I'm just trying to help. Let her go and we can talk this out." The man's laugh was chilling. "Help? You think you can help her?" He stepped closer to Elena, who flinched, sweat beading on her forehead. "You've got no idea what you're dealing with." Panic clawed at my throat. I could see that knife glistening like a snake's fang. "Please, just put it down," I pleaded, hoping to sound more confident than I felt. His gaze flicked between me and Elena. "You're both in over your heads, but I'll make a deal with you," he said, his voice dripping with venom. "You leave now and she walks away unharmed. Stay, and you'll wish you hadn't come at all." My thoughts raced. What was I supposed to do? I could see the threat in his posture, the sleek blade poised to strike. But leaving Elena felt impossible. "No!" I shouted, stepping forward, defiance sparking within me. "You can't hurt her. You're not that kind of person." A flicker of hesitation crossed his face, just for a moment, and it was enough. "Don't think you know me," he snapped, lunging toward me. I instinctively backed away, my body spurred by raw survival instinct. But as I stumbled back, I noticed something. The flicker of the light bulb above us cast a brief shadow on the wall, revealing a door behind the man. I couldn't waste time. I had to create a distraction. "Look out!" I yelled, pointing to the other side of the corridor. His head whipped around, and in that split second I lunged toward the door, stepping inside. The space I entered was dark and cluttered, filled with old crates and cobwebs hanging in an oppressive gloom. I could hear him cursing as he shoved through the doorway behind me. I glanced around looking for anything to help me. Then I spotted a small window off to the side. The far-off streetlight shone through, illuminating a path I could escape through. I climbed on top of a crate, desperate to reach it. I heard loud footsteps behind me, the man advancing rapidly. "You can't hide!" he shouted, rage lacing his voice. With one last push, I shoved the window open and crawled through. The cool night air hit me like an embrace. I turned to look back, ready to call out for Elena, but then everything went dark. Someone yanked me back inside, their grip tight and unyielding. My mind raced in panic. I was caught. My breath caught in my throat as I was pulled back into the darkness. I swung my arms, trying to break free, but the grip tightened, crushing my wrist. I couldn't see who it was, but I could feel the heat radiating from their body. The smell of sweat and something metallic filled the air. "Shut up!" a voice hissed in my ear, sharp and aggressive. In that moment I was reminded that anything could happen in this place, a shift in power, a change in the game. I struggled against the hold, trying to twist away, but it was no use. Panic surged again. I had to think. My instincts screamed for me to fight back, but I needed to know who had me. I tilted my head, trying to glimpse my captor. "Stop moving." They yanked me further into the dim space, and with a shove I hit something hard, a wall. I winced but wouldn't give in. "Who are you?" I guffawed, determined to mask my fear, my heart racing like a wild animal. Then I heard it. A soft voice, barely audible over the thumping of my pulse. "Let him go." It was Elena. Her voice resonated with desperation and hope. In that moment my heart screamed for her. Did she know I was here? "Stay out of this," my captor snapped, cutting off any chance of another plea. I heard the shuffle of footsteps, and instinctively I pushed against the wall and angled my body, ready to react. Then everything changed. The man I had confronted earlier stormed into the room, his knife glimmering ominously even in the low light. "What are you doing?" he demanded, eyes darting between us. "Just trying to help," my captor replied, their voice strained. I could feel their grip easing slightly, as if they were caught in a conflict between loyalty and a growing fear for their own safety. "Help? Or maybe you're making it worse, he shot back, stepping forward. I seized the moment, my body working on instinct as I twisted free from the slackening hold. Before I could catch my balance, I stumbled into the darkness. The room seemed to close in around me, the chaotic scene playing out in my mind. "Elena!" I called out, desperation clawing at my throat. I could hear her movement. Was she okay? I spied a slight illumination in the corner. A second window. My eyes locked onto it, a sliver of hope in this whirlwind of fear. I dashed toward it, heart racing furiously as the sounds of struggle echoed behind me. "Stop him!" the man shouted, but I was moving, pounding toward that light, opening it. The world outside beckoned. Then I heard it, the blade swooshing through the air. Still unsteady, I leapt through the window just as I felt a rush of wind and something sharp grazed my arm. Pain erupted, but I pushed it aside, tumbling onto the cold ground outside. I threw myself to my feet, every instinct urging me to run. As I sprinted into the night, I hesitated for a fleeting moment, wondering if Elena was safe. I needed to find her, but I wasn't alone. Footsteps echoed behind me, someone was following, and with every step, they closed in. The night air was thick, and I heard the distant sounds of the city, sirens wailing, voices rising. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I sprinted down the narrow streets, my breath coming in quick gasps as adrenaline surged through my veins. I didn't know how far behind they were, but the thought of being caught again terrified me. As I rounded a corner, I stumbled into a small square. My heart raced as I scanned the area for any sign of escape. The shadows were dense, cloaking every alleyway. I crouched behind a trash bin, struggling to calm my frantic thoughts. Did they recognize my face? I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes raking over the alley, searching for me. Then a flicker of movement caught my attention. I pressed myself further against the cold surface of the bin, peering cautiously. It was Elena. She emerged from an adjacent street, her face pale but determined. Relief flooded me. I wasn't alone. "Elena," I hissed, beckoning her over. She cast a quick glance over her shoulder before rushing to my side, her cloak swirling around her like a shroud. "Is it safe?" she whispered, urgency tightening her voice. "Not yet. We need a plan," I replied, looking around for options. We couldn't stay here much longer. "Where are they?" she asked, her eyes darting. I managed to slip away before he could hurt me, but we can't let them find us." "They're somewhere close. We need to find a way out of this," I insisted, adrenaline pushing me forward as my mind raced. A glance toward the street indicated a side alley, promising a potential escape route, but I knew it would be risky. "This way," I urged, gesturing for her to follow. As we crept down the alley, we exchanged hurried whispers. "You should have never come back here," she said, the weight of her concern evident in her gaze. "You don't know what you've stumbled into." "I need to know the truth," I replied, desperation creeping into my voice. "Why were they after you? What happened on that fateful day?" "I'll explain everything, but we have to get away first," she said, moving almost instinctively toward a narrow exit that led toward the outskirts of the city. The sound of footsteps echoed behind us, followed by the low murmur of angry voices. Panic clawed at my throat. We were running out of time. "This way," I urged, darting into the shadows. We emerged into a dimly lit street, a web of vendors long since closed for the night, creating a maze of alleys. We pressed onward, their voices growing muffled behind us as we turned a corner. Elena stopped, breathless, and grabbed my arm. "Listen, this isn't just about me. It's about the curse," she said, her expression deadly serious. "Those figures, they appear when the truth is too close. They haunt those who try to expose what's behind it." "What do you mean?" I asked, confusion clouding my thoughts. "The bullfight. It wasn't just an accident. It was orchestrated." Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "I was meant to die that day." Our eyes locked. The weight of her words hung heavy between us, the city seemingly closing in around us. "Why didn't you tell me earlier? Why are you being hunted?" I could feel my heart thumping in my chest. "Those people, they think you know something." "I do." Her voice trembled with urgency. "I thought I could escape it, but I realize now that they won't let any of us go until the truth is buried, forever." Before I could process her confession, the distant footsteps grew louder. My heart raced. I pulled her toward the nearest cafe, hoping it was still open. "We can hide inside, regroup." "That won't work. They know this city too well," Elena said hastily, panic creeping into her tone. "We have to separate. It's the only way." "Separate? No, that's too risky," I countered. "Please trust me, it's for your safety," she insisted, her eyes pleading. "I'll draw them away. Find a way to get to the old arena. We'll meet there. It's the only place the truth might set us free." "No," I protested, my heart sinking. "What if—" She pressed her finger to my lips. "You have to go now. I'll be okay. I promise." She slipped away before I could argue further, melting into the night like a ghost. I stood frozen for a moment, unease rippling through me. I had no choice but to move. With a deep breath, I turned and hurried toward the outskirts of the city, my mind racing. Thoughts of the old arena flooded back, its haunting history echoing in my head. I didn't know what awaited me or if I'd find Elena again, but I knew I had to uncover the truth, whatever it was, once and for all. As I entered the darkened outskirts, an unsettling silence enveloped me, but I pressed forward. The path loomed ahead, shrouded in mystery, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness around me was watching, waiting for my next move. But deep down I felt the whispers return, swarming the edges of my conscience, reminding me that not all secrets are meant to be uncovered. Yet the longing for answers and Elena compelled me onward, even as uncertainty trailed just behind me, and the shadows grew ever closer.